What is up, my dudes? Welcome back to, I want to say episode 29 of Farms Out. I'm trying to do this daily again. My sleep schedule is absolutely demolished. It is currently a juicy 7 a.m. in which I have not slept because, I have not been able to fix it. Tried yesterday, and then I stayed up until 7 a.m., and I guess I didn't. So, not my finest moment. Anyway, without further ado, we have the new commanders coming out this week, I believe, so I probably should do a quick look-see at them, just make sure everything is good. I did see a couple questions with them. I remember looking at them and thinking they were decent, but not thinking they were good enough to pair off rip. That makes sense. Like, if perhaps they had more support, that'd be one thing. I didn't really like the garrison commander, but I did like the wheel commander. But the wheel commander looks like they have to pair with some new type of comm. They could also pair with like either Herman or ZL. They look like they could be slightly better in some ways. I'm not entirely sure. ZL Herman is just a really strong march. I'd have to be really sold on the fact that I'm going to split them up. And looking at the new comms, I'm just not very sold. Overall, does the new comm look okay? Yes, but I mean, like, we're not investing in archers first. Archers are very dubious in general, and so, like, do I like the new guys? I mean, like, they're cool, right? They're not, like, bad. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to the questions. So, first question is going to come from Eztrath384, and he is going to say, another question to add about the barbs versus forts. If you're having 3 purple alliance chests a day, and they put a 10 fort minimum, or you can go to the second alliance, which is more or less the same with the first, would you still prefer chaining? Now, when we're talking about the first or second alliance, the biggest thing to consider here is how many gold chests are being gotten. For sure, no 2 alliances are ever the same. So when you say more or less similar, are we talking about, one might have 3 gold chests a day, one might have 4 gold chests a day, or are we just talking about the purple alliance chests? Also, being able to get like 3 alliance chests per day, that's pretty good, especially for younger KD. If you have a question like this, you're probably decently early into the game. Being able to get 3 chests per day, also they're purple, so maybe you are a little further. Either way, I mean, it sounds like a pretty good alliance overall. 10 forts is only 1400 AP, so I wouldn't really concern yourself too much with it. I mean, it seems okay to me. Of course, I think chaining down all your AP is always going to be the best, but I mean, like, 1400 AP worth when over the course of the day you're probably gonna get like 3000 plus, you should be all right? Just take the times where you're not no-lifing on the computer to kill barbs to do the forts. The next question is going to come from James Schwenk. As someone who is F2P, is only China viable, or is getting Belly also viable to have a solid peacekeeper and a march that can help in KVK 1 and 2 by hunting down farmers in low health marches? The Logic Bank starting Belly is the best. Logic Bank is an absolutely excellent player. I'd like to preface that before I say anything. The places where I disagree with Logic Bank generally disagree in the types of players that were used. It is a full call on our farm. Love to see full commander unlocks that I would care about. Again, Logic is an absolutely fantastic player. I really enjoy his guides. I like the way he thinks. I like his process improvement. Logic Bank, again, is going to be a lot more, let's say, direct and precise with the way he does things. Logic Bank works a lot in data, and I work a lot in concepts, right? Conceptually, I know what stuff works, so I just do the stuff that works. I don't really pay attention to necessarily how specifically it works. I just know that it does, and I call it a day. All of that rambling to say that, is China viable? Yes, China is the best starting civilization, bar none, I think. Now, when it comes to Belly, I think Belly's a strong commander. I don't like cavalry when it comes to free-to-play. You could run something like Barbarians Sun Tzu, or perhaps Barbarians Belly, but I mean, Belly doesn't really work in a 1v1 scenario. It just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get as much KP as possible, as cheaply as possible, getting Belisarius isn't a bad idea. But KVK 1 isn't about getting KP for a free-to-play player. If you get 50 million, 100 million KP, that'd be awesome. 100 million is quite a decent amount, by the way. That would be awesome to do, but KVK 1 is mostly about how can I put forth as much value as humanly possible. So when it comes to Sun Tzu, he's going to give you value for chaining, he's going to give you more value in Expedition, he's going to give you more value in Sunset Canyon, more value in Lost Canyon, he's going to give you more value in terms of fighting on the open field, whereas Belisarius is going to have a couple more gimmicky points, but expertising a Peacekeeper isn't super necessary. Right? Having a Peacekeeper super early on, there are ways where you don't immediately have a Peacekeeper when it comes to epic Peacekeepers, but you'll always have Markswoman. And I know that sounds like, oh, it's Markswoman, whatever, but like when it comes to just reducing your AP cost by 10, Markswoman does that, right? So when it comes to doing Lohars, when it comes to doing forts, you already have that. And when it comes to killing stuff in KVK 1, you don't need Belisarius immediately to do that. What you do need as fast as possible is Sun Tzu, who is undoubtedly the strongest epic commander in the game, bar none. You want Sun Tzu as fast as you possibly can get him because he has so much value and so much PvE stuff and PvP stuff later on, but mostly early game PvE stuff. Obviously, I would heavily consider when do you need an epic commander, why do you need the epic commander, and what do you lose versus what do you gain in getting Belisarius? What do you get from getting the, let's say, your specific specialized warhorse immediately versus getting the do-it-all guy? And the thing is like, if you really want to run Belisarius to hit farms, you can expertise him as your second or third epic commander. You don't need him immediately. I would not start with Belisarius. Even if you wanted him, which I don't suggest, but I do see why you could want him. Just finish him by the time you get to KVK 1. Call it a day. Next question is coming from Polling. Set also, for context, I really like Logic Man. So if you guys are going to take what I just said and disagree with the man, y'all better be very polite. Okay? If y'all are dicks to my boy, I will ban you. So be normal. I know a little, some of y'all get a little intense. I need y'all to be well-adjusted human beings. Paulang, what up? How many farms minimum or to be considered a good amount for FTP low spender, and how should I maintain it? Should I play it like my main or just send out gatherers, collect daily pop-ups, and log off? When it comes to minimum farms, generally I would take however many marches you have and I would add +2. So if you've got 1 march, I'd run 3 farms. If you've got 3 marches, I'd have 5 farms. If you have 5 marches, I'd have at least 7 farms. Generally, it has a lot less to do with how many farms should you have. Like, it's how much KP do you want to get and how active on these farms you are. If you log onto your farms only once per day, you might need like 20 farms in order to get like a decent amount. Or you might need like 15, something like that. The sad answer is the more farms you have, the better. And up until you have like 10, you don't really see diminishing returns in terms of engagement. Now, what I will say is doing all the events on your farms, some people do it and they see crazy returns. I mean, like really, really good amounts of being able to fill flags. They get really good stats. They have a ton of resources. There's a ton of really good stuff you can do on your farms by having a bunch of them and doing events on them. I wouldn't suggest that. I think that's a really easy way to burn out in the game. I would not suggest that for like anybody, I don't think it's the right move for the vast majority of people. So I'd be very, very skeptical about doing such a thing. I would say absolute bare minimum, you just start the game, you want at least 3, ideally 5. Later in the game, you want 5, ideally 10. I have 5. I should have 10. And if you can log on to it, bare minimum 3, ideally 5 times a day, and send out your gatherers, that would be pretty good. So wake up, dailies, send out, do whatever daily stuff, get ready for work, blah, blah, blah. Get to work, 15-minute break, boom, farmers out, lunch, farmers out, second break, farmers out, work ends, farmers out, before bed, farmers out, right? Just try and weave it into your day. Next question is coming from ZKX2417. This man is asking questions steadily, and we do appreciate that. Guys, if you comment in the comments below, there's a good chance that I take a screenshot of it, I send it to my boy Race, and I answer this question. He actually just responded to my DM and he said, bro, fixed his schedule. Little does he know, we did not go to sleep. ZKX says, is unlocking Shahar and making her 1/1/1 good enough to be a healer for barb chaining? She has 3 different skills for healing. Thanks. I use Hera, and I think Hera is a very good chainer when it comes to, the different commanders that you have because he has such a big shield. However, I still brought him to 5/1/1. I don't know if he was exactly worth it just because he has no other value. Shahar may actually have value as an Archer March outside of it. You probably can run her as a healer at 1/1/1, but I would question why not bring her to 5/1/1, especially if you already have like all of your other commander marches done and you have some extra sculptures. Like an extra 40 sculptures is not going to kill you, or an extra 50 sculptures is not going to kill you in order to make her a much more efficient chainer. If you know somebody that's got her like a little leveled up, look at how they play and how long their marches live compared to your 1/1/1. I think you'll find getting her to at least 5/1/1 is probably ideal. Good question. I will have to review the characters again and probably get a video edited where I do a more in-depth review in terms of my first impressions. Dr. Frost has the next question. I am actually going to be using Tzu and Aethelflaed for my first march in KVK 1. I am a free-to-play and I like the debuffs that Aethelflaed provides. What do you think the debuffs will not make a huge difference in KVK 1? In this game, stats have something called diminishing returns. So if you have 100% attack, 10% attack is much less impactful than if you have 20% attack and you get 10%. Very early game when people have less stats, being able to remove the amount of stats that Aethelflaed removes is way more impactful early game than it would be later in the game. So have no fear, Aethelflaed is an absolutely fantastic character to run your KVK 1. She has a 5-person AoE exactly like Sun Tzu, and like Sun Tzu, she does not reduce the damage done to each character. So if you hit 5 people with Sun Tzu and you hit 5 people with Aethelflaed, it does the same damage to each one than if you hit one character. which is really, really solid. The biggest issue with Aethelflaed is most people just don't have her at a usable spot, and she costs a lot of gold stars, which a lot of people don't have. But if you don't have a Richard and you're not running Richard Sun Tzu, running Sun Tzu Aethelflaed is completely fine. Or if you're running 2 marches, you could always run Bjorn Sun Tzu and Richard Aethelflaed, and that works as well. ZKX actually commented underneath, he said the debuffs are great. Also, her damage doesn't get reduced per target like most AoE commanders, but you need to play with them well and good in dot mode. And that is another thing. This is a very, very squishy march. It has a lot less durability than a march like Richard would have. So be very careful if you play this. This is a more advanced march, but it can have really good returns. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoy this type of content, please be sure to drop a like, a comment, consider subscribing. If you guys want to help support the channel financially, you guys can always donate to the Streamlabs link in the description below. And as always, guys, we are once again doing coaching. I should be doing some coaching later today. You guys can always go to the Discord in the description below and make a ticket. It is $75 for an on-stream session. It is $35 for an on-stream session and $75 for an off-stream session. Anyway, guys, have yourselves a great one. Thank you so much for coming out, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.